Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Jordan Hession alongside Carlos Garcia and Brendan Conroy. The sights, sounds, and smells of spring have arrived as the 2021 spring training began yesterday. Tonight, we're going to preview a few headlines as spring training is underway. Let's lead off with which team or player had the best offseason.
So the New York Mets, they had an awesome offseason, but I think specifically the player who had the best offseason was Frankie Lindor. He moved from a small market to a huge market in New York, and right now he's probably one of the best players in the MLB, and he's only one of 3 players in the MLB to have a signature shoe, joined alongside Mike Trout and Bryce Harper. So I think just by having a signature shoe, being one of those few guys, and also being a top player in the league, I think he had an excellent offseason, and he got paid, which is what he deserved.
Yeah, definitely. So what I wanted to say was, let's talk about this guy, Fernando Tatis Jr., coming off of a 14-year, $340 million signing contract this past offseason. He looks like he's ready to go. The Padres are going to be explosive. They have the pitching. They have the hitting. As we know with Tatis, he's got some help. He's got Eric Hosmer at first base. They've got all the parts they need. So coming into spring training with the guy that you just signed for the next decade and a half, there's definitely going to be some confidence there as they head in with such a powerhouse to the spring training season.
With spring training as an audition platform for young players, which organizations have the best pool of prospects?
I got to go with the Boston Red Sox. Although people may be sleeping on them, they may be the sleeper team, I do feel that they're going to come in strong. They're going to come out fighting. They might be looking like the underdogs right now, but with guys like Dulabek, Michael Chavis, Jeter Downs, those 3 guys are fairly new. They've been in the program for a long time, coming up from AAA, AA, Single A. They've just done all the right things. They work together well. It'll be a great come up. Their general manager, Shane Bloom, has great confidence with them, as do I. So I hope that we can see them do something great in spring training.
Yeah, right now the Seattle Mariners, they have one of the best farm systems in the MLB, and they got 6 top 100 prospects, and 2 of those guys right here with Julio Rodriguez and Kelenic, the number 4 and number 5 prospects. And out of those 6 top 100 players, 3 of them are 21 or under. So I think they have a bright future ahead of them, and they could maybe bring back Seattle to what their team is supposed to be, a playoff contender.
With the shortened past season, which teams will under or overperform in spring training?
I think for me it's close, but I think it's going to be the San Diego Padres, that they're going to absolutely blow out teams. I think, they obviously got Tatis with that huge contract, and they have star power like Manny Machado. Plus, they went into free agency and got 2 huge names to bolster their bullpen in Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, who Blake Snell was pitching in the World Series last year. So I think that this team has a bright future ahead of itself. And, they had a disappointing season last year. They lost. They got swept by the Dodgers in the playoffs. But I think that this team is destined for greatness this year, and they're definitely going to make it far.
Yeah, I got to back up the LA boys. Last season, they just looked phenomenal. And then, as we know, they obviously have Betts, Bellinger, all those strong powerhouses. Seager, who won the World Series MVP last season, as well as Trevor Bauer now. We saw them add Bauer, which, as we've seen, he can put the ball anywhere. He has a lot of velocity, can really move the ball however he likes. And I don't really see what's going to stop them from going back-to-back this season. They have all those parts they need. Their lineup, I haven't seen one bad player, one bad hitter in their lineup. Their rotation is top 3. It'll be a tough season to beat these LA boys, but I think they got this one. They'll come out of spring training looking pretty good.
As the COVID-19 pandemic continues, how is the MLB prepared this spring training compared to last year's?
Yeah, so as we know, these games are not the same length that we're used to seeing in any spring training or even the regular season. They've cut the games down to 7 innings or 5 innings, so coaches mutually get to decide during the games how long they want to make it last for, whether it's 5 innings, 7 innings. They're cutting that down. I don't know if that's because they want to make sure that people are playing less time. There's really no difference when it comes to COVID. However, with that, they are trying to make sure they can stop the spread and keep the season as fresh and continuing as possible.
Yeah, we definitely saw how other sports leagues were impacted by COVID, but I think the MLB has been hit the hardest just because, the variety and tons of players that they have. But I think what's going to really impact the MLB the most is the fact that prospects aren't really going to be seen as much. They're not going to be used as much. You can have 2, maybe 3 at-bats in a 5 or 7 inning game. And I think that's going to be a huge issue because you're not letting your young guys develop and really showcase the talents that they have. So I think just the fact that the prospects aren't going to be able to really shine, I think that's going to hurt a lot of teams that have deep farm systems because they're ultimately going to be searching frantically for what these young guys can be able to do, and they're going to be trying to go into the offseason and find some other guys.
With spring training in full swing, that means that the annual tradition of opening day is right around the corner. That will wrap up this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Carlos Garcia and Brendan Conroy, I'm Jordan Hession. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.